about Frank. Mark said, I can't, he's a great man. There's no stories that I can give you that anybody hasn't heard. But Brian said, you know, he dropped me off at the bottom of North Bend, and he told me to run up to Keating, and afterwards we were going to swim. So Brian, he dropped him off, and Brian hitchhiked up the hill. And I think he beat everybody up the hill, but that's the brother that Frank had to put up with. So he goes to Cincinnati, puts up with my brother, does a great job there. Then he moves on to Arizona. My son, my oldest son, was the mascot at Arizona. And so once again, my family is blessed by Frank Busch. He's done everything in the world. He started off as a swimming coach, as we all do, in the summer league. And now he's the national team director for United States Swimming. What else can there be said about such a great man? Frank Busch, it's been my honor to know you.
Thank you very much. That was awesome. Thank you. Thanks. I think this mic is on, so I don't think I need this mic. Both? Oh, okay. This is going to be difficult because I have cheaters. I have some notes. Well, I feel much more comfortable here if you're okay with me. Louisa, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for what you're doing. Swimming is better because of people like you. You know, there's an old saying, I don't know if swimming draws great people or great people swim. And I really mean that. The people that I've had the experience to be involved with since I've been a very young man it's not only changed my life, but it's changed my family's life because my 5 children grew up surrounded by dedicated athletes, like the Back Boys. And as a father, you can't ask for better role models for your children to be surrounded by. So Pat Lunsford is an old friend of mine, and he's the one that kind of put me in touch with Louisa. And Pat was, just a very quick story, at UC we didn't have any money for anything, and all of the volunteers were officials that I knew through, at that time, was AAU swimming, it wasn't United States Swimming, but the officials, since I could not pay them for their services, every year I would put a cooler full of beer in a 15-passenger van, and I would drive the 10 men, they were all men at the time, to a basketball game at Riverfront Coliseum to watch the Bearcats. And we would go up someone would allow us to go up into one of the suites, and I would just have beer and cold cuts and things, and they thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And it was the only thing I could do with my budget to pay them back for being such loyal, wonderful people to come down and officiate all of our meets. And they were the most official of officials. They were so professional in what they did. So anyway, not only is there a connection with UC in that way, but there's just the swimming connection and a choice. It was one of those things where, if you can remember the old name of Dick Laymeyer, he was my summer league coach at Brookwood Swim Club in northern Kentucky. And so he had just graduated from college, and a couple of days before we were supposed to start practice, he got a real job, so to speak. So the parents came to me and said, would you mind just kind of babysitting until we find somebody? Because I'm still swimming. I'm 16 years old. And, I'm 16. Sure, I'll do that. Well, 8 years later, I'm still babysitting these kids at Brookwood. And it just, with each year, it became such an important part of my life. And then when my wife got involved, and obviously our kids, I was hooked. And so whatever it took for me to continue to coach, I would do that. And I think that's how we all kind of attack the passion in our lives. We look for something to support that if that isn't supporting us. So anyway, that's how I got started. And then after that, I started coaching the Northern Kentucky Piranhas, which are I think the Northern Kentucky Clippers, they're called, and did that for 4 years, came and coached the Marlins for a year, and then from there went to the University of Cincinnati for 9 years, and then from there I coached at the University of Arizona for 22, and now I've been the national team director for the last 4. So I just thought it would be maybe an interesting, the things that I feel like we share, all of us in this room, we share a love for the sport, and the connection that I have with Cincinnati, being here for 38 years before I left, obviously changed my life with every single step of the way, whether it was coaching at UC or coaching at Arizona and now being involved with USA Swimming. Everything has changed in my life. And Mark Sullivan, who I've known for a long time before I left here, and he was coaching at St. X, he just kind of looked at me and said, I can't believe you've gone from being a summer league coach to heading up the national team at USA Swimming. And I kind of looked at him, and I say that every day. I say it to my wife all the time. It's a long way from Brookwood. And so as I work with all these amazing athletes now and select coaches for teams and things like that, but I thought it might be an interesting thing for you to kind of know what exactly I've sort of gotten myself into. And in the years as a coach, I was able to coach athletes from 17 different countries that made it to the Olympic Games. And it was when I coached those athletes, I didn't care where they were from. They were kind of like my extended family. So I looked at them no different than I would look at a kid from the United States or any place else, because you can imagine when someone, it's hard enough as a parent here in the States to watch your child go 1,000 miles, 500 miles, 2,000 miles away from home and not see them except for maybe Christmas, and that's just about it, or maybe the end of the summer after the nationals are over. So you can appreciate someone that sends their child to a university in the United States 7,000 or 10,000 miles from their home. And so you connect with them in a very special way, just like you would connect with anybody else on your team. And then, so now, moving forward, now I coach, obviously I'm responsible for the American kids and the success that we're going to have in Rio, and we've been very blessed. I'm a part of the strongest swimming country in the world. Everyone here knows that, but it's just that when you extend yourself out as a coach and you extend yourself out as a parent, it's more than just that. It becomes, you encompass so many things, and so many things change in your life with all the people that you meet in school and all the parents that you meet and all the connections that you have. And whether it's success or failure, our sport builds character in a way that's, I think, is very unique. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about swimming and from maybe a different perspective, because a lot of people have no idea how the national team works, how things are selected, what's going on, because everyone thinks it's, maybe some of the athletes in this room aspire to be on the national team, and I hope you do, or the national junior team. The national team is made up of the 6 fastest athletes in each event, and that's the way the national junior team is selected as well. The 6 fastest athletes in the 100 butterfly or the 400-meter freestyle or whatever the event would be, that's how you make that particular team. So we have 6 members in each, so that's roughly about 100 members of the national team and 100 members of the national junior team. It's a big group, needless to say. We have World University Games this summer in Korea. We have the Pan American Games in Toronto. We have the World Championships in Kazan, Russia. We have the World Junior Championships in Singapore. So in those 4 meets, we will be the United States will send about 190 kids to various places representing the United States, 190, 38 coaches, 32 staff, and when you think of that, I hope for all the athletes, you begin to see that it's not just about the Olympics. There are so many opportunities along the way. And yes, there are many challenges, but there are many challenges as a coach too. Mandy's going to be one of the coaches for our World Cup team that's going to, after World Championships, she'll be in Moscow, and then she'll be in Paris. And I'm real excited for her to have that experience. It's so important that we give coaches the experience, not only to reward them for their hard work, but also to give them the experience that they may need if they're ever named to a national staff. So it's not complicated, but I think the important part is that as an athlete, you don't want to get lost in thinking that if I don't make the Olympic team, then I really haven't accomplished anything. I was talking to a young lady who swam at Ohio State, and she's in graduate school, and we were talking about her experience in college there and what a wonderful experience it was, and she's still swimming, and she has Olympic trial cuts, and she's going to go to Omaha next summer, and she's excited to do that as well as continue on with her studies. And I hope everyone in this room has the opportunity, if you've never been to the Olympic trials, is an experience you'll never forget. If you can imagine, if you've ever been in Riverfront Coliseum here, probably seats 15 or 16,000 or whatever it seats, I can't remember. So we're in Omaha at the CenturyLink Center. There's a pool, a 50-meter pool, and of the 16 sessions, I think 4 or 5 of them were sold out at 14,200 people. So you can imagine walking into an arena and seeing a pool in a place that you never thought you'd ever see a pool that seats over 14,000 people and it's full. So if that's not on your bucket list, it should be, because it will give you an experience, and everything's walkable in Omaha too. You'll be able to walk to everything. It's very easy to get around there. It's about a 15-minute cab ride, and once they drop you off, you can walk to everything. There's every bar and restaurant and hotel within less than a half a mile. Sorry, I'm getting old here. You know, our sport has changed so much. Think of, I'm just going to give you one example, and many of you may know this, and maybe you don't know the story. But in 2008, prior to 2008, Dick Ebersol, who is the retired president of NBC Sports, got together with the International Olympic Committee a couple years before, and got together with USA Swimming, and actually got together with Michael Phelps, and wanted to, knowing that Michael was going to try, and there was a buildup of winning 8 gold medals, which would be the most since Mark Spitz, most since anyone had won 8 gold medals. No one had ever accomplished that. To change the start times of the trials and the finals. And with the idea that if they would do that, if they would swim the finals in the morning, then it would be live television for NBC at prime time. So after lots of talk, lots of negotiations, and quite a bit of money spent by NBC to give to the IOC, which wound up giving it to FINA to change the times were changed, and history was made. Michael Phelps won 8 gold medals. 2 of those races were won by a 100th of a second. So you knew that when the relay happened, which was, I still to this day consider that the greatest race I've ever seen. When you see that and you see how the 100 butterfly turned out, when they showed that I don't know how many times over and over, they couldn't believe that he actually got his hands on the wall before his opponent. You knew that something was going on, that it was in the cards, that he was going to win 8 gold medals. So Dick Ebersol looked like a genius, and he was, to change that. And that completely elevated our sport to the next level. Chuck Welgus had done so much since he had been there in the late 90s to that, but to see that happen. So now swimming is the #1 sport in the Summer Olympics. It's watched by more households in the United States than any other sport. I was talking to someone last night and I said, can you name our 3 top track stars in the United States now? And they said, I'm trying to think of that. And I said, can you name our 3 of the top swimming stars in the United States? Sure. Phelps, Lochte, Franklin, Ledecky, they're household names now. You walk out on the street now, and you'll have a better chance of getting one of those names out of somebody's mouth, the public, than you will any track star. And who would, in our lifetime, ever thought that would be a part of our sport? So our sport has changed. We have a professional end of it now that's thriving, and I don't know exactly where that's leading to. I kind of need to see what that feels like after this Olympics, but I know that this summer with all these meets, things are just beginning to heat up, We haven't named the Olympic coaches yet. That's going to come up. I'll name the Olympic coaches, the head coaches, right after these summer competitions, so that'll be happening around the 1st of September. And so you can just see there are so many things that happen sort of behind the scenes and what I do now. I told someone today that what I miss the most, they asked me, what do you miss the most about coaching? And I said the relationships. You can never, there's no substitute for the relationships that you have. And being on a college campus was very special to me because you just feel the energy when you step on it. I felt that way when I went up to UC a couple of days ago. I think in my 20s, I got a chance to coach the Marlins just for 1 year before I went to UC. And in that year, it was a special year for the athletes at the Marlins. We had 6 kids make the 1980 Olympic team. And it was a magical time. Unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to go to the Olympics. We boycotted in 1980. But, and there's still, and I feel terrible for those individuals because they were denied a chance to represent their country, and it was just a moment in time that they have obviously moved on in their lives, and they've come to grips with it. But I think when you think of the times that you've won a race or you've lost a race or you've watched your child win a race or lose a race, just being part of the sport is given them the growth and lessons in life that so many things just can't teach. And you know all the qualities, the discipline, the stick-to-itiveness of something, the time and effort that is spent trying to figure out how to balance your life of being a student, being part of your family, and yet being so committed to a sport that requires so much work. So when I think back to 1980 and I think about those kids and I get to see them periodically, they'll usually come back for trials, or I might see them at nationals depending on where the nationals are held. You know, they're not bitter about it anymore, and they're grateful for the opportunity to be named an Olympian. But I look at the past athletes and their growth and what's happened to them, and I couldn't be more proud or more privileged to have been involved in something that has brought so much good to so many people. So thank you for allowing me to talk a little bit about what I do and about our sport and how we're all connected through it. Louisa, thank you for doing this wonderful thing for this community. I've never, Cincinnati is not my home anymore, but for 38 years it was, and I still have so many roots and so many friends here. But if there's anything I can ever do for you or do for any of the athletes, please don't ever hesitate to contact me. My email address, if you want to write it down, it's really simple. It's fbusch, B-U-S-C-H, @usaswimming.org, and you can contact me anytime. And I'll try, if I can't answer the question, I certainly have the resources to point you in the right direction. So congratulations again on this great foundation. Congratulations to all the athletes and parents for the years that you've spent building swimming and keeping it as something very special in this community. And I hope you'll get a chance to go to Omaha to see that spectacle. It's worth every moment you're there. And I hope that it's my goal to make sure that in 2016 we're as successful as we've been in the past. So thank you very much.
I'd like to take a picture of you and David.
Oh, sure.